Can you explain to me, Jay, what just happened with Mahomes' contract? Is this just the Chiefs treating an employee well because other guys are getting guaranteed money and they're like, no one's more guaranteed than our guy?
Yeah, I think it was just a thing of like, all right, we got to bring him up here to what's now, I guess, the norm for the top of the market there, because he was down toward bottom 10, so he's the best there is. So I think this demo is just trying to make sure that there is never, ever any bad blood there, or, anything ever goes off the rails there.
Why do we care, though, Jay? Can you explain to me how or when this happened?
I don't know.
Do you remember when it happened? You've covered this since the beginning,
Yeah.
and I don't remember when money became a thing where there's breaking news that everyone cares about, and I'm like, why do we care about this?
Yeah. When the internet really, and Twitter took over, I think that's when, because you're right, you just used to say, okay, this guy got a deal done, but it wasn't, oh, we got to see the numbers, and we got to make sure that these numbers aren't fake, and we're holding kind of agents to what things are really said and done. No, back, I started covering the league in 95, the Giants in 93, but started doing that, the minute by minute breaking news in 99. And it was never, well, the agents are saying this, but the real numbers are this. And you're right. I don't care as much as everybody else, but some of the fans really like it. So, our job is to give the fans what they like.
Jay, with all the injuries to running backs across the NFL, is it more likely now that Jonathan Taylor gets traded here in a couple of weeks?
If they get what they want, they're looking for a one. Problem is, too, if you're going to trade for Jonathan Taylor, not only do you have to trade for Jonathan Taylor, but you're going to have to give him a new contract. And you just see that, everybody is definitely that position. There's no solution. And when I went around for my training camp tour, and I hit a lot of these teams, this came up a lot. And there was no solution as far as, hey, maybe you do this, and that takes care of them better, and it brings them where they're supposed to be, because they should get paid higher. They are the bell cows. They are putting themselves out there. And a lot of times, every time, if you don't have a good ground game, everything else isn't going to work. So they are severely underpaid, but it's just how business is there. Like, we can't change, if McDonald's, people like cheeseburgers, we can't change the fact that people like cheeseburgers. We can't just say, forget it, they're not going to want cheeseburgers anymore. It's just the way that business is. And that's probably a really, really bad business analogy, but I'm trying.
Yes, do better, Jay Glazer. We need better business analogies from you. But what did you see from the first 2 weeks that you thought can be extrapolated? Some of the analysis of this sport, Jay, is dumb, because whatever you thought about the Browns, when that happens to Chubb, everything changes about what you thought about a team. But what you've seen through 2 weeks means what?
Usually nothing. Usually first 2 weeks, man, it gets everybody really upset and hot and bothered about what they see about a team. Or if a team looks great right out of the gates, like, oh man, this, everybody, they're not going to be able to be stopped. Let me just remind people this. In 2007, when the Giants won their Super Bowl, Strahan's last game, their first 2 games, I believe they gave up 48 points and 49 points in those first 2 games. So if you're a Giant fan back then, the sky, it fell, crashed all around you. There was no shot. They ended up having the biggest upset in Super Bowl history, beating that undefeated Patriots team that year. So it's really, the NFL has always been who gets hot and healthy last. But it's the greatest reality show in the world. So as part of the soap opera, we overreact quite a bit. But, the one thing you do have to say is, yes, the Jets, obviously going from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson, that's going to be, they've got to get to a point where their ground game is great. Their defense is phenomenal. And despite, giving up what they gave up the other day, they do have a really good defense. So they have to kind of go back to old, convince themselves of, hey, we have the ground game and the defense. We don't have an MVP at quarterback anymore, but we can still kind of win games the old-fashioned way.
Stugotz, what did you pull out of your ear there that you're rolling around on your finger?
Some of Greg's wax. It was weird. There you go. Candle maker. Somehow, yeah.
You have seen here, Jay, from the Dolphins, what? I just saw Stephen A. Smith put him 1-2 on his power rankings, Stugotz. Yeah. Cowboys number 1. Dolphins number 2. I don't know where the 49ers go in there. But what did you see from
the Eagles? Right.
What did you see from the strongest teams that validated what was your opinion already?
Yeah, I did love the Dolphins going in this season. Even like when I was at the Jets, people I was talking to there, that was the team that they kind of had their eye on. Because I'd like the Bills a lot more than what they've been showing. So, the Dolphins are a balanced team. Bringing Vic Fangio down there to that defense They're giving him a lot more stability. And I think that, Vic's defense is so complicated, it's just going to get better as guys understand what they're doing week in and week out. And as long as they can keep Tua healthy, and I like Tua with an edge too. I like this. He's not just sitting back anymore and kind of no comment do things. He's getting a little pissed off. I like it.
Jay, speaking of quarterbacks, the Colorado quarterback is getting people's attention. Shedeur Sanders, and you've said you think he's going to be you think he's going to be a top 5 pick. And my question is this: when the NFL looks at him, do they see potentially a transformational quarterback? Everybody's looking for the next Mahomes.
Yeah, but there's no next Mahomes. That's not going to happen. Caleb will end up being the first pick of the draft. But Shedeur, look, he's got the work ethic. He grew up with a dad who not only was he more talented than everybody else, but Dion worked so freaking hard. I worked with Dion at CBS, and Dion's had a huge influence and impact on my life, my career, and just how smart he is and how much work he puts into things. That's what you want to see from guys. The reason why guys come in the NFL and they falter so much is because a lot of times they just try and go on the talent they had from college. Well, you only work on your craft in college a few hours a day. Now you got 24 hours a day. So who's going to use all that extra time to try and get better? And that's hard to, really gain understanding from in the short time that you can interview guys and all the work that you're doing. And now you're kind of limiting questions and how you can push buttons and whatnot. But Shedeur is a guy who's going to come in there and he's going to work his butt off to just try and get better. So, yeah, I'd put a lot of belief in him.
I will tell the audience again, unbreakable is what he's doing with his life that feels most purposeful professionally. And he gives you uncommon honesty, vulnerability, and healing if you're willing to be open-minded about some of the things that may be troubling you. So check out the book and the podcast.